Okay, so today we're doing characteristics of linear functions. So the warm-up you guys had was, given this graph, write the linear equation. So when you're finding the equation, it's y equals mx plus b. So you need the slope, which is the m, and the y-intercept, which is the b. So for this problem, the b is 0. And then your slope, you have to find another nice point. So remember, nice points are any of these that go through the crossings. So I am just going to use these two. So I make my little triangle, and I have to go down 2 and right 1. So remember, because I'm going down, that means it's a negative. And slope is rise over run. So my rise is -2 and my run is 1. So in my equation, it's going to be a -2. So my final answer for this warm-up is y equals -2x. You can put plus 0 at the end if you would like, but you don't need to because it's just 0. Okay, so now we're going to actually start the notes. So characteristics of linear functions. So we've already done slope, we've already done y-intercept, and we've already kind of done the x-intercept. So remember, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, and then the x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. So the first thing we're going to look at is the end behavior of a linear function. So that is, what are the ends doing? What are the arrows on the ends doing? And how do you write that? You're always going to write it, and it's going to be increase, decrease. So as x increases, that means as I go to the right side on the number line, and as x decreases is as I go left on my number line. And that's not going to change. This right here, though, is going to change depending on the graph. So there's 4 cases for end behavior. Case 1 is, what if it's a positive slope? So if it's a positive slope, remember, you're looking at the ends. So again, it is always going to be increase and decrease for the x's. That means as x increases, as I go this way on my number line, what is my arrow doing? So in this case, it's hard to see, but the arrow is going up, so it's increasing. Then the second one is as x decreases. So as I look on the left side of the graph, that's this end right here, that side is decreasing. So when you have a positive slope, both of the sections are increase, increase, and decrease, decrease. They match. Okay, but what if you have, for case number 2, is if it's a negative slope? So again, we have our 2 sets of arrows. It's always going to be increase and decrease over here. Well, as x increases, so again, these are the positive numbers, so that's the right side of the graph. As x increases, what is f of x doing? So that means, what is my line doing? It is decreasing. Then it says as x decreases, so that's the left side. When x is decreasing, that's always the left side, which is that arrow, and that one's increasing. So they're opposite. Increase, decrease, and decrease, increase. Okay, then we have case number 3. Case number 3 says, what if it's a 0 slope? So a 0 slope is this line right here. It's hard to see, but it's a horizontal line. So again, you still have decrease and increase. Oh, I did that in the wrong order. That's okay. We'll go back. Increase, decrease. You sometimes will see it flipped. All right. So as x increases, so that is the right side. the line is staying the same, right? It's not going up or down. It's not increasing or decreasing. So you're going to have it stay on a number. And same thing on the left side. It's still staying at that same number. So whatever number is right here, that's the same number you're going to put for this f of x side. And we'll practice with some of those. So that is for a horizontal line because it is going left and right. Okay, your fourth case is if it's an undefined slope. Well, we can't find end behavior on an undefined slope because it's not going left and right. It is not going left and right, and you need that part for right here, increase, decrease. The graph isn't moving left and right, it's only moving up and down. So if it is a vertical line, vertical lines, you cannot find end behavior. Okay, so let's practice some of these. So it says write the equation in function notation, then find all the characteristics. So we already have this, but it says it wants it in function notation. So we're going to write it as f of x. And I know two things when I'm given this form. It's mx plus b. So I already know two things. I know the slope and I know the y-intercept. So the slope is going to be 1/2 and the y-intercept is -7, but I want you to get used to writing it as a point. So because it's the y-intercept, this -7 has to go in the y space. And then what goes in the x space? 0. For an x-intercept, it's going to be the x is where the number is going to go, and 0 is going to go for the y. So we will figure out this x-intercept later on. It's going to take a little bit more work. Okay, so before we continue with the rest of the characteristics, we need to graph this. So I have to go down 7 and over. So this is just a sketch. There's no lines on this graph, so it's going to be a little difficult, but we'll make it work. So I have to start here at -7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is my start point. And then my slope, remember, is rise over run. So rise over run is the slope. So that means 1/2. That means I'm rising 1 and you're running to the right 2. So I'm going up 1 and going over 2. Going up 1 and over 2. And then you draw your line. So you need to have points when you're graphing these so they're accurate. So on this, I'm going to have an x-intercept, right? It's going to be like all the way like over here somewhere. But that's too hard to see or guess. So we're going to actually mathematically find that x-intercept. So to find that x-intercept, okay, we already said it's a number, comma, 0. The x is the number and the y is 0. So we're going to take our original equation and go ahead and plug in 0 for the y. So that right there is going to become 0. So it's going to be 0 equals 1/2 x minus 7. Now it's a two-step equation, and I know we haven't done these in a while, but hopefully you still remember how to do them. Okay, I need to move this 7 over to join the 0. So the opposite would be add 7. Add 7. So then I have a 7 equals a 1/2 x. Well, I don't need 1/2 x. I need just x by itself. So I need to multiply by the reciprocal. 2 over 1 is the reciprocal of 1 over 2. So I get x equals on the right side, and on the left side, I have to also multiply by 2 over 1. So 2 over 1 times 7 is 14. So we're going to go back up here, and it says your x-intercept, so it's 14, but I want you to practice writing it as a point. So the point for the x-intercept is actually going to be 14, comma, 0. Okay, next we have domain and range and the end behavior. So remember, end behavior, the increase, decrease is always going to be given. Let's change colors. Okay, now let's do the domain and range first. So remember, domain are your x's and range are your y's. So your domain tells you as I go left and right, as I look to the left, as I look to the right, is this graph going to stop at all? No, this graph is going to keep on going down like this and keep on going up, which means it's not going to stop. So it's going to the left forever and to the right forever. So negative infinity to positive infinity. And then my range says bottom to top. So is this graph going to keep going down forever? And is it going to keep going up? Again, yes, it's not cut off anywhere. There are arrows on all sides. So your range matches your domain. It is negative infinity to positive infinity. And remember, when you're working with infinities, the negative one always lives on the left side, and the positive one always lives on the right side. Okay, the final thing we have to look at for this problem is the end behavior. Remember, it's called end behavior for a reason, because you're only looking at the ends. So I'm looking at this end and this end. So as x increases, that is this side of the graph. So I'm looking at this arrow. So I'm looking right there. What is that side of the graph doing? That arrow is either going up or down. Which way is it going? It's going up, so it's increasing. As x decreases, decreases are negative numbers, so that's the left side of the graph. So that's this arrow right here. So that arrow is going down, so it is decreasing. For these, it just takes practice. It really does just take practice. It's hard to figure out what each question is asking and how to read the graph, and there's just a lot going on. And you're going to keep using these all throughout high school. Okay, so I want you guys to try this problem and then check your answers with the answer key on Canvas. Okay, for this next example, you're going to need to watch the next video.